Hello, welcome everyone to OT Echo. Today is June 13th, 2024. My name is Kate Barlow, and I am today's host and founder of OT Echo. And today I'm really excited. Dr. Mary Schmitz is here to talk to us about home modifications. Please keep yourselves on mute throughout the presentation. If you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll interrupt Mary as she's talking to make sure that all your questions get answered. All right, thank you so much. Mary, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited that this was a topic of interest. So, just as I was introduced, I'm Dr. Mary Schmitz. And for those of you that have never heard of me, which probably the majority haven't, I live in a little township called Fort Mojave, Arizona. So, I am in probably a very hot area for some of you that may be very familiar, and for others it's very foreign. We're supposed to get up to about 115 degrees today. So I'm in air conditioning as I speak. So moving forward, I'm an occupational therapist and have been for 38 years. I've practiced in multiple settings, and one of the areas that I have found very valuable in all settings to have a background in is home modification. And to be honest, guys, home modification does not have to be high tech. And we'll just explore some of the simple changes because those might be the most practical to implement. And that way, access to a lot of resources may not be easy for some of you. And that's where I want you to please enter into the chat so that I can be alerted if there are certain situations that you're like, hey, I've come across this and I don't have access, or I can get things off of Amazon. So we'll go through a few scenarios. Hopefully that'll help you. So let's move on. As far as learning objectives, I hope this is simple enough and basic, but yet provide some information that whets your appetite for it. So I want you to be able to articulate populations that may benefit from it. And what I hope to show you is that it's not just for the elderly, and that we're going to distinguish reasons that why should I do home modification, or why should I even recommend it as an intervention? And then let's take a look at, did this presentation give you a little more confidence to understand how you might be able to either seek the right people to assist with home modification, identify that it is appropriate for some of your clients, and then what role you feel competent to start implementing, or be able to identify what further training or education do you need. So that's what we're going to hopefully cover here. And really, we've got to take a look at why even are we thinking and talking about this? We know human occupation is inseparable from the environments in which we live. And whether that's a call for sustainable practice, as Dennis et al. In 2015 really proposed, we need to look at what we hope to obtain. If we're going to do home modification, is it because of the health and safety of the individual? Is it the environment they live in just is crumbling down around them, or access to safe water or things like that? Because we know with children that in the environment in which we live can help promote health and growth. So why wouldn't we want that throughout as we age? And perhaps home modification will just provide general comfort. We want to be able to support if somebody chooses to live in the same environment as they get older. We want to continue to support that and continue to make it safe and maximize their independence, and independence in all aspects of life, whether that's their leisure and being able to have a group of friends come over and visit, whether that's for them to be able to safely get in and out of their own bed and be able to shower or bathe themselves, and to be able to access the kitchen for cooking, or if they're working from home, an office space or other areas. We want to be able to, make sure that it's accessible for everyone that needs either caregiver support. And so we want to be able to make sure the environment supports individuals that warrant caregiver support, but maybe because of our interventions, will reduce that need for the formal paid caregiver or even the informal of family coming over and checking in on them. We could also promote fall prevention or fall safety type of things, because it's been proven that not just for the elderly, but all ages, most often the type of injury that occurs is a fall. And that warrants people going to the emergency department and potential hospitalization. And sometimes once people are hospitalized, they don't return to their own homes. And just other medical conditions. Um, and now with the advent of smart technology and AI, it's a convenience. So really, bottom line, we're looking at who benefits. The trigger that most people think of off the top is aging. As we get older, sometimes our systems aren't as quick as we want to be. We aren't lifting our feet. We may have difficulty getting in and out of bed or on and off of our chairs, off the toilet, those types of things. But it can affect people at a lot younger age. So looking at that chronic health conditions, the neurological, orthopedic, or other congenital conditions. How about your neurodiverse population? Now, many of them may be more hypersensitive to sound or light, or maybe they're disrupting the rest of the family. So we need an area that might minimize the disruption to the rest of the family. Or how about individuals that are shorter than 5 feet tall? Think of, at least in the United States, and I don't know in other parts here, what the standard height of your countertops are and shelving. And how is that accessible to somebody that's less than 5 feet tall? Or how about our individuals that have cognitive impairment, the intellectually disabled? And perhaps you guys can come up with more. So it can cover a wide gamut of individuals. So specific to pediatrics, you might find we want to explore, does this equipment or this environment need to change as the individual gets older, and especially with a child, grow in size? Will we need to replace it? What are the needs of others in the home? Maybe they have siblings or the other adults. So if we have only one bathroom and we customize the toilet to accommodate the one child that may have cerebral palsy, will that toilet still be accessible to everyone else in the home that needs to use it? Is it easy for the adults that are caring for the individual to access and use? And really, is it promoting a child's growth and development in a positive direction? And are we accommodating for play? Is that inside the house as well as outside the house? And honestly, I put play under children and pediatric considerations, but we as adults like to play too. So we want to consider outdoor space too. So where might home modification be seen? I mean, a home is a wide general term. And honestly, for this presentation, I'm using the term of a home versus an apartment, because with an apartment, you have different regulations, at least in the United States, that govern public access and those types of things. But in your own home, if you own it versus if you have a rental situation, you are in control of what height you place things at, what area you knock a wall out, and those types of things. So when we're considering the home environment, First of all, how does the individual get into it? Are there steps leading into the house? Are the steps still safe? Are they wide enough to accommodate, say, a walker or other mobility device? Um, do we need to explore a ramp so that it's something that somebody with wheeled mobility can still access without somebody being around to help push them? Look at all the living spaces in the home. Anything from where they may sit and read or watch the television or do their homework, the kitchen, the bathroom, of course, bedroom, office space, play areas, the hallways, stairwells or stairways. Those are all areas. So honestly, almost every inch of your home could be a potential space for modification. So if we're trying to look at what supports our interventions, we can go back to 2002 when when the World Health Organization released the International Classification of Functioning Disability and Health, or ICF, because it became a framework for both disability and health. So within that document, it was singled out environmental barriers and facilitators. So that really helped to shift the perspective of an emphasis upon disability to measuring function. And so it's functioning regardless of what impairment. And it promoted really that increased recognition that reductions in the severity of a disability can be obtained by modifying the physical and social environments. And there's even the environmental factor classification, which supports instruments to assess the environments related to the extent of barrier creation or facilitation for different levels and types of disabilities. And so, truly, I think this makes it more reasonable to implement and execute modifications for universal design, which we'll talk about a little bit, and additional environmental regulations that may have been implemented that really promotes ongoing functional levels for anyone and doesn't look at it from a medical disability perspective solely. So let's take a look at, with OT, we're very much of what frames of reference, what models of practice can we use to support it? And two of them that come to mind are the PEOP and then the model of human occupation. Because what do? They support interaction between the human and the environment. It's that person environment fit, and then how that leads to participation and engagement. So, research supports it. Joe and Kim were specifically exploring the model of human occupation-based home modifications. And what they found is when you make modifications to the home environment with the lens of the model of human occupation, you see improved engagement in self-cares. Now, and why not? That's our bread and butter as OTs, is looking at our daily living. Now, in the United States, we use the Occupational Therapy Practice Framework, Domain and Process, Fourth Edition, or OTPF. And within that, it identifies health management as an occupation. So what better way to manage our health than to have a safe environment? So context is considered as it influences our engagement and participation in our occupations. And really, if we're trying to alter the physical environment, then we should be facilitating engagement rather than leaving it as a barrier to work around. And then if we go further with this of occupational justice, to address regulations that potentially are imposing restrictions on access to services, to negative stereotypes, or are implicit biases that become part of a social context, those can become barriers for individuals who are challenged to engage fully in occupations that are most important to them. So if we can knock that down by using the model of human occupation or that just right fit by modifying our environments, why aren't we doing that and helping others? And then we use the occupational profile. And honestly, that's kind of basic of what we as OTs should be doing. We're asking the why. Why why isn't the individual doing more? Or what occupations does the client succeed in? And what barriers exist that are preventing them from doing something? Let's get an occupational history. What are their personal interests and values? And the context. How does their current environment support it or inhibit? What products or technology could be used? What is there that's just natural or what is man-made? And what changes can be done to those? And how can we support that to increase their relationship with others? What services can we bring in? What are the personal components? Looking at the individual, what is their age? What are their social background, their upbringing, their cultural, name it. We need to know all those things. And that helps us better recommend what could help support their role competence, their participation, or prevention of further, shall we say, decline or lack of potential. And how could we promote health and wellness, their occupational performance, and ultimately to support occupational justice? All of those things can be supported with home modification. So that's a mouthful for us to know about. So another way of looking at trying to get from our clients what they most need and what's most important to them might be using the COPM. We're going to look at that from an occupational focus. We'll engage the client in the discussion of their occupations that are most important to them. Ask them to kind of rate them. Like, how important is this to you? Maybe a person, it's very important that they be able to bathe or shower themselves. And so you may say, how important is it? And they'll say, it's a 10. I don't want somebody coming in and doing that to me. But how satisfied am I currently with the way this is happening? I'm at a 3. So that really helps us rank what areas we want to address when we go through modifications, or at least identify what could improve. So let's take a look at some sample assessments. How could we approach this with our clients? Now, looking at the features of some, how easy is it for us to access? Do we have to put out some money to be able to use it? Is there research that supports it? Beyond us doing our basics. And by us doing our basics, I don't want to lessen that. We may not go into getting some specialized form. We may be at the point that we just want to know what's important to our client. Is there some simple changes we could recommend? It might be as simple as removing some rugs within their home that are tripping hazards. It might be, oh, you know what? If you had some rail to hold on to take those 2 steps up into your home, I bet you could balance much easier. And so we don't need to do a full-blown out assessment, perhaps, but also be careful not to be narrow-minded. What your client first identifies may not be everything that we see. So let's take a look. One of the assessment tools I pulled up is called Casper, and it's actually looking at, again, an environment and client interaction. So it's not just reporting. It's not you just doing a survey and, tell me on this scale of 1 to 5. It's actually having you do part of the activity. So it's an interactive. Let's see if I can pull it up for us to take a look at it briefly. Hopefully it's coming. There we go. Everybody see that okay? So the CASPER, again, is called the Comprehensive Assessment and Solution Process. And it says it's for aging residents, but honestly, I don't think it has to stay with just being for the older adult. So looking at it, it does collect all the basic information that anyone would do. How to contact the person, what organization, may have been a referral source, all of those types of things. So let's take a look again, more specifically, entering what type of diagnosis or medical condition may have triggered this kind of a referral, if they're using any mobility devices. And then now let's start gain some information about the client ranking of how easy or difficult some of the common things are. And it really goes through basic things. For instance, can you turn on and access your light switch? And then it goes outside the home as well. Can you step up on a curb? Can you walk up or down a couple steps? If you have wheeled mobility, can you move your wheelchair? And then it goes area by area within the home and asks you to rank, is this a problem? Is it a help? And so forth. So that way, again, it guides where you can go with it. Okay, I'm going to scroll through this very quickly, but just let you see, and it is in your resources, so you will be able to look at this later. But it allows us to write in some comments as we're doing it. It looks at also the safety of the environment, heating, telephone, thermostat, plugs, as in electricity, adjusting the light level, being able to hear whether it's a doorbell, whether it's a smoke alarm, all of those things are also part of the axis. Then you go through it with the client to help them identify what's important to them and how soon is it. You may identify 12 things that could be changed, but either because of time or financial, they have some priorities that are honestly top. I got to get this done. Those things can wait. And we need to know that because we may rank them differently than the client does. And again, looking at what needs to be changed, what's going to stay, even though we may say, hey, these weren't your highest of your ranking, but okay, so we're not changing them now. Maybe later, but not now. Then it has us go through completely the measurements so that you get multiple areas and be able to have that data, whether you're going to then speak with a contractor or whomever. And that way you've got some details to build from. Or if you're recommending a piece of equipment, but boy, your doorway is only 28 inches. I'm not going to be able to get that in unless I build it once I get past the door. So that gives us an idea of an example of some free resources. Okay, so let me pull back up my speaker notes here. All right. Now, one that was adapted or developed, I should say, actually down in Australia is the Adaptable for Remote Home Assessment. And I said that wrong. What I wanted to say is that the Westmead Home Safety Assessment is accessible and has been proven in research to be adaptable for remote home assessment. Romero et al. In 2018 utilized it as well. It was referenced in the development of the protocol for administering telehealth home assessments by McBride, Story, and Kaysen in 2023. So if we take a look, I'm sorry, I clicked too fast. So there's two different forms varying in length of what's being asked. This, I'll give you a pull up here, shows us the short form. So here's where you would write your summary after you've done your assessment. This goes through what hazards are in the home, looking at safety as your primary area, what the lighting is, whether you can have steps that are slippery, if they're uneven, if they're poorly lit, looking at cleanliness. Are they a hoarder? You know, what are the floor coverings? Are they going to trip on things? Are there loose, cords, anything that could be in the way? And looking outside as well. So it goes through all the different areas within the cabinets, internal, even looking at the individual's footwear, looking at their pets. Are they accessible for feeding them? Where they have that located? So again, it's giving us a nice basis, but again, it doesn't have the person perform it. It lets us collect this information, but it does not have a performance component with it. So looking at the safer home here, this is one that was developed and modified as well, but it's looking at an interview, then observation of the actual performance. And that way, we're looking at a tool that also can be used for pre-intervention and post-intervention. And we can actually measure that there's a change in function. And again, this is also a form that has been proven to be adaptable for remote home assessment, as cited in the literature here by both Breeden and Renda and Leip in 2016, as well as again in 2018. Now, looking at the Cougar Home Safety Assessment, this one is exclusive for home safety. So it's not looking at the individual's function. It's looking exclusively at what there is for minimizing any accidents or injuries. So fire hazards, looking to see if they have access to equipment that will put it out, like your smoke detectors, smoke or fire alarms if they're on multiples areas of the home, looking at where they store flammable objects. If they have a fireplace, how that is. Looking at if they have information posted, for instance, if they have numbers posted on or near the phone or easily accessible, if there was some injury, do they wear some kind of a device, an alert device, or how would they, do they have any wearables? Like I have a smartwatch that detects falls. Do they have anything like that? Or if they're hearing impaired, does it alert them to somebody being at the door or any other emergency? First aid kit, do they have that? So anyway, it goes through all of those things. But again, it's not performance based, but it is just an adjunct that may be all you need for some individuals. Now, the iHope is widely used, but this is something that you have to purchase to be able to have the card sort, which has different activities in daily living. And you, again, sort them based on either the ease of performance or areas that maybe you aren't doing, but you would like to. So then based on what you have chosen, then there's a performance component. And then you look through at what the environmental barriers are, what we could do to alter them. And then, like it says here on the PowerPoint, it's intended for the older adult, but again, I don't know that it has to stay that way. And it also allows us a pre and post kind of measurement so that our outcomes can be assessed. So when we think again about home modification, why isn't it more widely done? Some of the considerations we may have is there a resistance to change? Is it a denial? Does the individual just think this is natural? my home is the way it is. And it's the way it's always been, and it's been good enough before. Why do I need to do anything now? Or I like it, I'm comfortable with it. Um, or they're denying that, hey, I am getting a little less mobile, and those little tipsy things where I catch myself on the wall. Maybe no, I'm not like that. I don't. No, I'm not one of those people. So they have a stigma that they, associate with it, or the concept or idea of somebody coming into my home to see it or to make changes or tell me I need something done. I don't want that. Or maybe it's their adult children that are saying, okay, I'm going to bring in these people. They're going to do this home modification. They're going to give us some solutions. And the individual that's this is being done for is not part of the solution. They're not included. So they may not have the motivation. Yeah? Other people will look at or consider, some home modifications look kind of institutionalized. And so there's a lack of aesthetic appeal. Doesn't have to be that way. Or financially. Hey, many individuals are on low incomes. And so to be able to do some major overhaul just isn't in the cards for them. So as the therapist recommending some changes, that might be part of our in is to already be prepared. Do we need to look at grants that are available for that particular population? In some areas, at least here in the United States, there's different associations, let's say for spinal cord injury, or for Alzheimer's, or our elderly. We have some grants and other programs that could be applied to that could support some of that. And honestly, people being resistant to home modifications may be just a total lack of knowledge. They didn't know there was something that could make it easier for them. So let's share. So then that goes to what really is needed. Do we need high-tech changes? Or are there some simple things that we could take a look at? Now, in your resources, I have something from Australia that's listed. It's a mod. I'm trying to think of what it is, iMod or something. Let me pull up the resource list real quickly here. And for the resources, yeah.
And Mary, I'm just going to give you a
Yeah.
time check. It's
Oh,
2:34.
please. So we're getting close then. So basically, we can hit it once we get to the credits real quick at the end. But look at your technology. Is it something the user will be comfortable with? It's nice that it's high tech and it looks very cool, but if it doesn't increase their independence or their functioning, then it's not going to be the smart technology direction that we want to go. And the expense, look at the expertise. What do you need to know already to be able to understand it and then to keep using it? And really, does it meet the need? Like I said, you may not need a total floor surface overhaul. You just may need to remove the rugs. And just bottom line, is it accessible now? Does it change from what it was when you first came and the problems that were identified? Here in the United States, we do have regulations that are governing public access. So that's why in your own home here, we do not have to follow the American with Disability Act. We don't have to have a grab bar at a certain height. In fact, in your own home, you can set it at any height you want. The Fair Housing Act will cover public housing. And that's where if you are in an apartment complex, that will be impacting that. ADA will also cover public access to offices and other buildings. But I encourage you to know what regulations are being directed for your specific area, and especially if you're not in the United States, for your country, because I can't speak to that. So who's doing it? In the United States here, occupational therapy, physical therapy, nursing, building contractors or handymen, and perhaps others. In your part of the area, in your part of the world, are OTs doing it? Or are others already into that field? And now you're trying to take away from them, or could it be territorial? How can you collaborate? Capable is a program here in the United States that has proven effectiveness of pairing a nurse with a handyman and an OT. And it's awesome. Now, that's under a grant that has supported that in different parts of the country. So if you want more information, look through the resources that I've listed here. So again, for equipment resources, some countries, some states have local medical supply companies, or through your government, you have access to it. In the United States, many times we use Amazon and just order online and ship it. Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards, these are do-it-yourself or hardware and builder supply stores. Here's the one I was trying to remember from down in Australia, the HM Info Clearinghouse. It's a boatload where you can specialize what area or what type of equipment or what part of the home you need assistance with. Click on it and it will pull up multiple resources where you can get it from. Just possibly general therapy supply catalogs, or use the internet. I don't know what's available in your area. You need to be aware of what you can find and what issues you may have with it. So gauging your readiness. You as an occupational therapist, your personal training should have also gotten you the understanding of occupational and task analysis and building that therapeutic relationship. Those will get you in the door to identify home modification needs. But you need to understand whether you have opportunities for additional training locally or whether you could get it virtually, and perhaps set up a mentorship or form a local learning group. Unfortunately, I didn't get feedback prior to this presentation, but HMODA is a home modification occupational therapy alliance here in the United States that does mentoring. And I had reached out to them to find out if they would do any international mentoring. So I will stay in touch with Kate to be able to inform this group that should that opportunity be a positive opportunity, that we get the word out to you guys. And that way, if you do want some international mentoring, we would have individuals that do it for you. So hopefully this has whet your appetite and helped you understand. In the United States, we do have specialized training. I personally have the executive certificate in home modification, and that was through the University of Southern California. But there are other ones that are available that most have a combination of professionals that do it. With the CLIP and the CAPS, you may not be a medical professional to be able to do that. Many builders are using that for their certification in handyman. So that brings us to questions. Have I covered it quickly enough that you have an overall understanding of it a little more than what you may have started with? Hopefully that's the case. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mary. This was absolutely great. While you're thinking of your questions, we're going to go ahead and do the case study. Mary, would you like to pull it up, or I have it ready on my screen if you'd
Why don't
like?
you pull it up? That probably would be the quickest for us. So I'll
Sure.
stop sharing.
All right. Hopefully you can all see my screen for the case study. Thank you for the head nod, David. All right. So would you like to go ahead and read it, Mary?
Sure. I actually took this out of an individual that I knew, 82-year-old female with post-polio syndrome, and she has weakness in bilateral lower extremities, so it is limiting her walking ability and endurance. She has a kyphotic forward flexed posture, with scoliosis. She uses in-home mobility with a rollator or the four-wheel walker with the little seat. But upon exiting the home, she needs wheeled mobility of a motorized wheelchair or scooter. Upper body, she passively can reach overhead so she can take her arm and be able to lift it up, but can't even reach to a full 90 degrees actively. She's also hard of hearing and refuses to get any possible hearing aids. So the areas of the home for consideration, looking at, she is a snowbird. She is staying with her son and daughter-in-law certain months out of the year. So, the guest bathroom, looking at that area has just a standard tub shower. But there's a master bedroom in the home that has a walk-in shower. She can't push to stand from a handicapped height toilet in either bathroom. The living room, she's unable to push up to stand from any of the couches or chairs. And if they're jointly watching a show, she most often cannot catch all of the dialogue from the television. In the kitchen, because of that limited range with her shoulders, she has to try and reach the items that she needs to use to prepare herself a simple breakfast and lunch while the son and daughter-in-law are working outside the home. So she needs to access the refrigerator, the toaster, coffee maker, all those types of things. Bedroom, closet space. Looking at a back patio. She wants to go outside to be able to sit and watch what's going on in the neighborhood. But for her to sit on that wheeled four-wheel walker, that little seat, that's not very comfortable. And to just go out for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes at best just isn't functional for her. She'd like to do more. So if we think about some simple low-tech modifications with the bathroom, I'm saying, what could we do to alter the environment that either would increase her access and safety with toilet access or looking at shower? So anybody have some suggestions or ideas that maybe they have tried or they have used? Because I know I didn't show pictures during my presentation. So what ideas do people have?
All right, with that, we are going to break out into the breakout rooms right now
Good.
and further this discussion.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. I know it goes by really quick in the breakout rooms, but we hope you had some productive conversations. We're going to start going through the questions. The first one is identify at least 4 low-tech modifications that could be made to the bathrooms. And we're going to start with Antonis and George group. Could you maybe list 2 that your group came up with?
Sure. We talked about making sure every item is in a small distance so she could reach out and prevent falls.
Yes. And then we'll also ask Timothy and Aika, did your group get 2 other low-tech modifications?
Yes, we did. We talked about the grabbing bars in the bathroom, and also the assistive or the aids for walking, since she's having some postural challenges. And we also talked on having handles in the different areas of the bathroom that she can be able to position herself, maybe while standing or while trying to reach. And in the bathroom, we also considered the toilet using the commode chair. So yeah.
And actually, the commode chair that has armrests are really helpful rather than just a riser that sits on the seat.
That's perfect. We'll head to the second one. What type of adaptive chair features may help this individual and provide comfort yet enable her to transfer independently, as well as watch television for greater than 1 hour a day? And then any suggestions for hearing impairment and volume on the television? Let's start with David's group.
David, you're on mute.
Unfortunately, we spent so much time on the first question, we didn't get the second one.
No problem at all. Mary, I saw you raise your hand. Did your group get to this one?
Yeah, thank you, because we also didn't get to the second one, but we have some contribution to the first question.
Okay.
We talked about a plastic chair that can be adapted to be a commode. So the plastic chair, we can just get a hole in between, and then they can at the center, so that they can use it as a commode. And then at times they can actually use it because it's plastic, so they can put it in the bathroom so that the patient can sit as they are bathing. Then we also talked about using a hose pipe, just an ordinary pipe, to get water from the tap so that the patient can bath themselves like a handheld shower, but using a hose pipe because the patient cannot get down to the bucket or to a dish or something. Yeah. Those were some of the suggestions, including what others have said. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. In the essence of time, is there anyone that got to any of the other 4 questions that just wants to let us know what they got for either 2, 3, 4, or 5?
So our group got
did-
to question 2 and 3. So can we say what we discussed on?
Yes, I can.
So on question number 2 on the adaptive chair features, we discussed on a chair that is easily can be kept in different position, meaning it requires a high-tech chair that can be used in, I don't know how, positioning, and the hearing aid also adapting it so that she can just press on it while she's sitting, or she can just adjust it to a mid-lying position when she's tired, since it's a 1 hour period. And question number 3 was the 2 low-tech enables.
Too low
Okay, on hanging her clothes, we discussed on two things: using the reaches and adapting the cupboard into the level of her height while she's in a seated position.
Very nice. There was someone else I thought I heard quickly speak before we wrap up.
Yeah, it's me, Antonis. So, regarding the second question, we suggest comfort housing for prevention of pain when sitting for a long period. And regarding the hearing impairment, closed captions on TV or using remote headphones connected to the TV, where she could hear the sound, but the rest in the room would hear the silence. Following the third question, maybe she could use a reacher so she could get clothes from the closet. And for the fourth question, educating the family, preparing everything for her before they leave the house, or even putting strings on doors in the kitchen so she could pull them so they could open and close. And also maybe using web cameras so that the family could monitor when away with their cell phones. And finally, for the fifth question, maybe using a door stopper to give her the time to get to the patient.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Antonius. It is currently 3:02, so we will wrap up. If there's any questions or anybody wants to chat more about the case study, please feel free to email us and we will get more information from Mary as we need it. Thank you so much.
And likewise, in the PowerPoint, I did include my email, so please feel free to reach out. And as I indicated, if Himoda, the association or alliance, I should call it, does say that they would be open to the modification mentoring, I definitely will share that information as well. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, everyone. See you next
Thank you.
month.
Yeah.